Hello, artists. Mrs. Langless here. I hope you all had a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving and a nice break. Today we are going to be coming to a new art project, and lately we've actually been working on landscapes, a picture of land. So we were looking out over a horizon line, and there was a background, a middle ground, and a foreground. Today, we're going to look at a picture of land, but instead, we're going to be looking from a different point of view. Take a minute to look at this example in front of you and think about what viewpoint it might be. What is it? This is a map-like view, so it's meant to look like a map, which means the viewpoint is from above looking down. It's also called a bird's eye view because it's how a bird would see things if they were flying up over the landscape. Another word for it might be an aerial view, so a viewpoint from the air or from the sky. A lot of these pictures can be seen, from airplanes. Maybe you've even seen one before, or maybe you've seen something on TV with some aerial footage, maybe from even a drone or a helicopter. So something really cool happens when the viewpoint changes. When you're above the land, you no longer see the horizon line. You also see things much smaller. So a building that would be really huge is now just a little square or a rectangle. In fact, all the things on a map usually appear as different types of lines and shapes. So you'll notice in this map that this area, really what I wanted to make it was looking more like a town or maybe a little city. So I made lots of little squares, rectangles, and geometric shapes. There's even a big tank here of water. So these are like little city blocks or neighborhoods where there are lots of people, lots of traffic, lots of things going on in this little area right here. It's very populated with people. Now, on the other hand, there are shapes in my map here that are not geometric. So they're not squares or rectangles or triangles. Instead, they have a very irregular shape. This is called an organic shape. And you might notice out here in the farm fields too, there are lots of organic shapes. Organic shapes are free-form and have very uneven edges, and as I said before, are very irregular. These are shapes that are found more in nature. So we have geometric shapes found in human-made places, like cities and towns, and then we have organic shapes found in more natural environments. So let's take a look at a couple of other examples before we see how we're going to get started with this. So I was looking through some books of mine and I found this map, and it's from a magazine. And what I thought was interesting about it is this map has mostly organic shapes. So you can see these really like irregular shapes here. The roads are very curvy. Moving around here, we have another lake. The reason why is because this is really more of a natural environment. There's lots of mountains happening here, and different natural elements. Okay, now let's take a look at more of a city map. Now here is something I found. It's called a major city guide. And if I just flip open to a page, let's see. Let's look at, okay, so here is a city map. This is the map of the city of Sacramento in California. You'll notice that there are lots of squares, straight lines. Let's see if I can find another even busier city here. Oh my goodness, look at this one. Here is Los Angeles, and you can see how busy this is with all the different roads and things. Now, I have a couple more examples that I made that I'll show you in a second, but I was really inspired by this particular artwork right here. And this is also a map-like view, but it shows a little bit more detail. So I love how it shows the roof lines of these barns and the different things that are growing in these fields with the texture lines and the roads. It even shows some cars here. There's some water with a bridge. So just giving you some ideas about what your map-like view could look like. So let's take a look. Here's another example. The last one that I showed you of mine was, meant to be more of a busy place, more like a city. This one is meant to be more of a small town, and it's kind of out in the country. And how I showed that is by making lots of big, open, wide spaces, okay, that are full of land, probably forest land or maybe open fields. Then I have some large bodies of water as well as some meandering streams here and rivers. Here, you'll notice that there's more geometric shapes, squares, rectangles, straight lines instead of curvy, to show where the people are and where the buildings are. Here are all the streets. Let's take a look at a different one. This one again, and I think on this one I was sort of thinking more about maybe like a school type of map. So where there would be a big parking lot and then there'd be a school building and a couple of other buildings outside. Then it was just kind of out in the country with this beautiful big piece of water here. I think it actually, initially I meant that to be the ocean because here's the beach. You can see it with the sandy color and a river running into the ocean. So that's where I was going with that. So today, what I want you to do is I want you to come up with your own map-like view. Now, your map can be something that you create that's real. So maybe you want to create a map of your neighborhood. Or maybe a map from how you get from your house to school or your house to the grocery store, or maybe even a map of your town, like the town of Dexter or Garland. Or perhaps you want to make up a completely make-believe map of your own. So you can totally come up with a map that is just kind of a made-up world of your own. I've even had students do a really wonderful job drawing a treasure map where they made these islands out in the middle of the ocean and a little bit of a map to show how to get to the treasure. X marks the spot. So as long as it's a bird's eye view or a map, then it fits this project. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First, you will need a piece of white paper as usual. If you have a ruler, it can really come in handy for different parts of this. If you don't, it's no big deal. You can draw just by hand, or you can even use the edge. Like sometimes if I don't have a ruler, I just use the edge of something that's straight and I use that instead. So that's perfectly fine. So whatever you have on hand is fine. And you can also just freehand it if you don't have a ruler. So when I'm starting out a map, usually I like to start with thinking of my idea, of course, and then thinking about how people get from place to place. So I'm going to focus first on the roads. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm going to make a road coming onto my paper here. And just make it as wide as you want it. Because remember, we're in the air. It's a bird's eye view. Now, my road's going to come to here, and then there's going to be an intersection. So that's where two roads come together. And so I'm just going to make my road going in this direction. And then maybe you are also able to turn in this direction. So a lot of this I just come up with on the fly as I'm making my map here. Let's see how that turned out. Oop, couldn't quite see that line. Let me try it again. There it is. That's a little bit better. So now we have an intersection. If you want, you can even put the lines on the road, to add that little bit of a detail. You could even make, maybe I'd see a little bit of a stop sign here. So I would just see it sort of from the top. So there's my stop sign so that no one gets in an accident there. Then when I turn the corner, I can think about where that road leads. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to draw like a body of water here, and I'm going to make it a nice organic shape kind of going off the edges of the paper. I think I'll have a river going into this body of water too, and so it's going to go under my road in just a second. I'm going to continue that road. So there's my river. There it is. Now I'm going to keep on going with this. I'm going to extend those straight lines, and then I'm just going to continue them right off the side of the paper. Now, to show that this is a bridge, what I like to do is I like to make little curves and then another straight line, and then show where you can cross over that bridge. There we go. Now, you'd continue. I could add buildings now, like maybe there is a seems like it would be a nice place for a house right next to the water here. So I'm actually going to make a house that is facing the water here. So here's my first rectangle. And then maybe there's a garage attached to the house. So I'm going to go right there with the garage. And then, of course, there'd have to be a driveway to get in there. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that as well. Now, if you want to show the roof line, you can do many different things. A lot of times I like to make my roof lines kind of look like that, or maybe like this. So think about what it really would look like as a bird looking down. And then you'll continue to just add, whatever you want. You can add more roads. Maybe there are more houses. Maybe there's a whole street here that runs along the water with a complete neighborhood. Let me show you one that a student of mine was working on recently. And I really liked the way that they were developing it. So here is a nice road coming into this area. And then there are some buildings. Looks like this might even be a hospital, because I can see there's that cross sign there that always symbolizes a hospital. Here it looks like it's a beach, because I can see that in the ocean there's some big, maybe a whale, maybe a shark swimming around. Who knows? There's some kayakers. I even see some beach umbrellas. So some really nice details here. So what I want you to do for today's artwork is to just work on the drawing part of this. So it should be all in pencil at this point, to bring it to a complete sketch up of your map. Fill the paper with the different elements. And then if you want, you can trace it with a marker. I noticed this student started to do that. You don't have to trace it with a marker, though. You can just leave it in pencil. And then next week, we're going to talk more about how to develop the colors and what colors might be appropriate for certain areas. Like, what colors would you use for roads versus maybe, in my artwork, this was supposed to be an airport. So that's why it's a yellow color. So we'll talk more about color next week. Take this week to really develop your map-like view or your bird's eye view. Really looking forward to the ideas that you come up with. So when you're finished with your drawing, please take a photo and upload it to Seesaw, to Unified Classroom, or email it back to me so I can see what you've been up to. Hope you guys are doing well. Have fun making your maps.